just when I got comfortable, I had this family who was just like, nope, go back in there, close it up, and go back to what you're doing. I said, yeah, it has. And I think if for anybody, it will have an effect on their relationships with family and friends.
Some people think it's going to put a strain on me when they, like, I've had a friend who recently told me, like, he doesn't believe in God or the devil anymore, and he's afraid, like, since I'm a Christian, that I'm going to try to tell him that he's going to hell and things like that. And I know that's a tactic that's not going to work on someone like him, because he's been in the church, and when people told him, it became more criticism than aid. And it's difficult because you do want to tell people that they're wrong, but if they don't have the basis of the Bible for their ethics and their morals, then it's difficult to tell them that. It's easier for me to point out to fellow Christians, hey, the Bible goes against this. That's where you do definitely have the moral ground. And I mean, if any fellow Christians are watching this, that's, in my opinion, something you need to really focus on when it comes to correcting. So it's weird. It's sometimes difficult because they expect me to tell them what to do, and that's ultimately not my place, because I don't know every single aspect of their life. I can tell them what I would do. I can tell them where I personally would like them, but having to phrase that and let them know that they can take that with a grain of salt, or in some cases should, because again, I don't know every single aspect of their life. It is balancing that ministry and trying to make it more ministry by example than ministry by words. I prefer to use actions to speak louder than words when most available.
There definitely were effects, but they weren't dramatic by any means, because I was very open and transparent as to what I thought, what I believe. A lot of my Christian friends, still actually kept being my friends after I deconverted. I mean, some people obviously, kind of kept me at arm's length, but my close friends didn't really do that. Particularly thinking about a lot of the leadership that were some of my best friends at the church that I went to, and also my parents. I had very frank, open, and honest conversations with them, and most of the times they were very amicable. Just because I did change my mind on things, I did just naturally grow a little more distant from them as well. So I mean, it was definitely a mutual sort of thing, but I have no resentment or animosity towards any of my Christian friends, and I don't think that they feel that way towards me either.
Good. Is your mind right?
I feel sort of unqualified to answer this because I don't have a ton of experience with people who have deconverted. I know people who kind of have never believed in God or haven't believed in Him while I've known them. When someone says they're a Christian, you are responsible to keep them accountable for what they believe and say, hey, this is what you say you believe. This is what you've told all of us as believers in the church. And this isn't how you're living. What can we do to help you? And then once that person says, you know what? I don't believe God, you no longer are responsible to keep them accountable to their beliefs because they don't believe them anymore. You're not going to hold them to the same standards that you would hold a Christian, but you treat them the way you would someone who isn't a believer. And that is less judgmental. The word judgmental kind of comes up a lot in critique of Christians. And we're not supposed to be judging people who have made these decisions that they don't believe the same things as us, because why would we hold them to those standards if that's not what they believe? But it says to love those people and make connections with them. And we see that in examples of how Jesus lived. He wasn't going around pointing fingers at the people who were seeking, the people who weren't super religious, but he would call to account those who were religious leaders, those who were practicing the faith. So that switch in relating to people, I think, can be applied to those who have a change in what they believe.
It affected a couple of relationships in my life, primarily family. There are still people in my family who don't know, because I know that if they did hear it or see it, it would be, they would be really disappointed. This was very early on in my deconversion, and I was just starting to branch out and try to find some answers and just read some articles from other famous or like well-versed and well-educated non-believers to kind of see like, well, what are they saying and what are their reasons for not believing? And so I remember I went to Barnes & Noble and I posted a picture of it on my Instagram account. I took a picture of the two books and I was like, hey everybody, like I've been going through a lot of changes lately. One of them being my faith journey, spirituality, but essentially at the core, I'm still the same person. I'm still the same Xavier that you've known, that you've grown up with. And after posting it, it was maybe like 2 minutes, I get a phone call from my aunt. So your uncle and I, we just saw your Instagram post, Xavier, and you need to take it. We really think you need to take it down like immediately. And I was like, she was really upset, and I remember her saying, like, we just don't understand why. Like, how can you do this? How can you not believe in this? And it was hard because they're my family. I appreciated their looking out for me because it showed that they cared and they loved me. But at the same time, it was this almost as if like they were stifling my growth or they were stifling my journey. They were telling me that who I am or what I identify with is not good, so you need to put it away and convert back to this. And that I didn't like. Just when I got comfortable, I had this family who was just like, nope, go back in there, close it up, and go back to what you're doing. I said, yeah, it has. And I think if for anybody, it will have an effect on their relationships with family and friends.
I think this is where the American church oftentimes might have room to improve. I've seen a lot of people, friends specifically, grow up in the church, and the older they get, they realize that this might not be what they want. I think humanity is searching for something more. The Bible talks about how God has put eternity on our hearts. So when I see my friends denounce their faith and say, hey, this isn't for me, I just want you to know, I don't try to pressure them at all and say, hey, what you're doing is horrible, you're making a mistake, you're going to burn in hell. And I think maybe that might be the approach that some American Christians take, and I don't know if that's what the Bible teaches. I think the Bible talks about love. Just because they do not want to acknowledge and believe in the existence of Jesus as God's Son doesn't mean that God still doesn't believe in them. And God's purpose for them is still vibrant as long as they're living, and they always have that opportunity to turn back to Christ. So I would use that platform as their friend to love them where they're at and to not judge, but rather let God work on their heart.
Well, it was mostly my relatives that, they disagreed with me, but it was always civilized. It didn't really, I remained close to them. They remained close to me, and nothing much has changed. Except I don't go to church with them because they live in Hinckley, Minnesota. I live down here, and getting to Hinckley would be, I'd have to hire a van. You'd pay a huge amount of money to get up there. It's just not possible.
It's been a while since I've been at peace. Gods and devils tearing me all apart. Now I'm on my knees, waiting to hang to a big oak tree. Hangman looks down from the sky, says about time for you to die. 'Cause the clock, well, it don't lie.